Hi, my name is Maisha Alam, and I work with the Institute for Women, Peace and Security at the Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. Today I have the privilege of speaking with President Atifete Jahjaga of Kosovo. Madam President, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
To begin with, I'd like to ask you about the Kosovo War. Now, it's a known fact that mass atrocities were committed during the war, and in particular, rape against women. However, at the Institute, one of the things that we're interested in is not only how women are victims during conflict, but more importantly, how they are agents of peace and agents of conflict resolution. Can you speak a little bit about how women contributed to the war-ending effort and the peacemaking effort in Kosovo?
My dear, you are so right that the war that has taken place and the conflict in our country has left a lot of consequences and a lot of pain that even 13 years today after the war that we are still suffering with a lot of consequences. One of the biggest obstacle, or better saying, like one of the major crimes, was also the rape towards the woman, which is considered one of the most severe crimes that could be conducted during the war and during the conflict. That takes a lot of time to overcome that for that individual, for the family, and for the entire society. My country has around 3% of the total percentage of the woman's percentage in the country, which has been a victim of the rape during the war. So it is a pretty large percentage. Even by the Hague Tribunal has been foreseen that that was one of the major crimes that has been conducted, despite of the genocide and other elements of the crime which has been conducted within my country and within our society. But the women within my country has played, as you said, a very crucial role before the war, during the war and the conflict time, and especially their constructive role of being in every process of building our country and building our state. After the war, it took a while to start the process of the resocialization of them within the society, but that has been done with their goodwill, with the family's goodwill and a desire to help their mother, to help their sister, to help their daughters to move through that process, and also with a lot of support by international community. But one of the greatest success that has been achieved after the war was for the institutions to create and the protecting mechanism that had the obligation to have the role of the woman within the society as a very crucial, to be a part of every step of the after conflict of the development of the country, no matter in the politics, in the social, in the health, on the sciences, and more importantly into the decision making. The role of the woman in decision making, particularly after the war and after the conflict, it is very much crucial in order to continue building these bridges of the cooperation, that the women are very much known out of many of the surveys that they are a good bridge builders. And for the 13 years after, my country today has not only the president, which is a woman, but we have 2 deputy prime ministers, which are the women. We have 2 ministries which are led by a woman, and one of the deputy prime minister who is leading one of the most important processes for the country, which is the technical dialogue between the Republic of Kosovo and the Republic of Serbia, which we have been undergoing the process. So that even that shows that the women are showing that effort of trying to bring that level of the confidence, of the cooperation and collaboration, not only within the country but also with beyond of going sometimes beyond of what is sometimes for some people not even imaginable to go through.
It's very interesting that as you speak about the role of women in the different sectors of society and in different sectors of public life, two themes emerge. One is the participation of women being very important, and also women's ability to lead in those roles, not just to be players but to be leaders. To now focus a little bit about your presidency, Madam President, improving rule of law has been one of the core tenets of your presidential agenda, and of course this is a carryover from your career previous to your presidency when you were a high-ranking member of the National Police Force. Can you speak about what has been your strategy for gender mainstreaming into rule of law in Kosovo, and what has been your strategy for increasing the participation of women in security sector reform?
Actually, in the post-conflict countries, it is very crucial the security level. Before security, or before you establish the proper security level within the country, then the other process of the developing the countries are in the big question mark. So the effort for the Kosovo and the Kosovar institution and the leadership of Kosovo has been very much focused immediately to conduct the reform into the security sector within the security forces, at the same time also within the police. In almost all of the cases where there is a war and when there is a conflict, the police and the military are being used as a tool of the repression and the tool of using the force. That was also the case in our country, where the uniform hasn't shown the protection and the service towards the people, but has shown the force and the brutality towards the people, but in general only for the Albanian people within our country. And so immediately after the war, we have started to build from the scratch the police organization. And 13 years after, we have one police organization which is one of the most important, one of the most respected institutions in the whole region, not only in the Kosovo, but it is also with a zero corruption, considering with all other regional countries. And it is also most represented institution, which is not only involved a high percentage of the women, about 15% of the women, but also involves other community members which are living in the whole territory of our country. The importance of the security and the rule of law, it is also important after the conflict, because during the conflict the victims are the women and are the children, and the best way to be treated if you have a woman who is a police officer, or if you have a woman who is from the other security elements, that approach towards the victim or the treating the victims are much easily and can be easily treated. And the acceptance by the not only society but also by the victim who is touched with that, they have a more free access into that. And the third reason, which is also important, is that the countries which are on the conflict and the post-conflict or the war, they have a more tendency for the organized crime and for the elements of the transborder crime. The transitional societies are being considered by this type of the crimes that they can feel themselves more free of operation. And Kosovo has not been immune also from this nature of activities just after the war and that after the conflict. So conducting the necessary reform from the day one of not only building and recruiting the police officers or the security officers, that from the first generation there used to be a required percentage of the woman within the police organization, but every class that has to be followed, every training, every capacity building that has to be conducted had to have the mainstreaming within that to be equal for the women and for the males. And today, 13 years after, we are the leading country in the region with the role of the woman within the police organization, starting from the lowest level and all to the highest position within the police organization. And also today we have a woman in all of the most specialized field of the police organization, within the justice, within the prosecutors, in all of the aspects of the security. So one of the very priority things which I would like now to summarize on the establishing the rule of law in the country is to start it with the process of the building the state, of building the democratic processes. Immediately before that is the process of the safety and the security and the rule of law.
Finally, to conclude with, let's focus a little bit on the future and what the future of Kosovo looks like. I found it very interesting that you talked about the quota system, and if you could expand a little bit about why you have the quota and how that impacts, you know, what the future of peace and security looks like for Kosovo, and in general, women's participation in post-conflict transformation.
Immediately after the war, we have established the possibility to create the system for the equal rights of all of the citizens, but particularly for the women. We have created laws, we have created legislation, we have created the policies and regulations within the all institutions. And yes, we have quota, which requires about 30% of the women to be included in the public service. This is very well presented in all the institutions of Kosovo, and sometimes we are even exceeding that percentage out of 30%. We have from the last elections, we have 30%, around 35% of the women who are the delegates within the Parliament of Kosovo, which did not happen before. But this quota has enabled to have not only the professionalism, but also the political guarantees to having the role of the woman incorporated within the political parties through their process of democratization, but also within the other decision-making institutions of the country. And I'm truly hoping that this percentage is going to be increased in the due times to come. Maybe sometimes the quota is not the best way of moving forward, but it is the only way for the transitional countries to have the guaranteed position of the woman within the very key institutions for the country, which are the base of the future development for that country. And I consider is the path that moves from the quantity towards the quality. So it is the process that continuously needs to be transitioned and transformed in order to meet the needs and the requirements of the country as well. My country is now, it's an independent, in a sovereign country. We have our territorial integrity, and my country is built on the civic principles, where all the citizens has an equal rights and equal obligations by the Constitution and by all the legislations of Kosovo. And we are committing ourselves from the day one with the state building process, with the process of the development of the democratic processes to be conducted and developed in order to fulfill our main goal and vision, which is to become a member of the European Union, of the NATO, and to become an equal member and to give our equal contribution like all other countries in all of the international organization which deals with the same global challenges or the difficulties.
Well, Madam President, it sounds like in 13 years Kosovo has made a remarkable amount of progress, and I especially am touched by what you said about women being bridge builders. I I know that the peace is fragile and there's of course a lot of work to do, and I extend mine and Georgetown's best wishes to you and your country. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.